Made easy. I'll begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we're presenting from and pay my respects to the elders past and present. I extend my respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait peoples here today. I'm Stella Despinatus and I'm the Family Support Worker at Waverley Council. My role is to support families with children 0 to 5 that live in the Waverley LGA, and I do this by providing information, support, referral, advocacy and education. I'm available Monday to Wednesday and my contact details will be up by email after the session. The purpose of this evening is to provide up-to-date and practical ideas on healthy lunchboxes and snacks in preparation for your children going to school. We're really fortunate to have Jessica Wrigley and Tegan Feehey presenting for us tonight. Both Tegan and Jessica work for the Health Promotion Unit with South East Sydney Local Health District. Sorry about that. But before we begin, just a bit about how today will run. We're asking everyone to put their speakers on mute to ensure that the presenters can be heard clearly. We're going to be recording tonight's presentation and you may want to keep your screens off for that. Several of you at registration time sent through some topics and questions, and Tegan and Jess will speak to those during the presentation, which will run for about 45 minutes. There will be time for more question and answers at the end of the presentation, so please put your questions on chat and that'll be open during this presentation. I'll be moderating the questions and putting these to Tegan and Jess when we get to the question and answer time. Towards the end of the session, there'll be a very brief survey popping up and requesting your feedback. The survey really helps us to improve our programs and better understand what will be helpful for you. So please take that couple of minutes to provide us with that feedback before you log off. At the end of the session, we'll be providing you with further information, advice and links. And you'll get them through email and you'll also have access to certain web pages. We plan to have the recording up on the Waverley Council webpage in about a week or so. Thank you for listening to me. And now I'd like to hand over to the presenters.
That's great. Thank you, Stella. So thank you very much for joining us tonight for the seminar, Healthy Lunchboxes and Snacks Made Easy. So this presentation is designed to support you as parents and carers to provide you with a range of ideas for healthy and lunchboxes snacks for your kindergarten child. So thank you again, Stella, and the team from Waverley Council for hosting us tonight. And thanks for the introductions as well, Stella. So I would also like to start by acknowledging the country. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that we are meeting on today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders both past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people who may be with us today. So Stella gave us a little bit of an introduction, but I'd just like to expand a little bit more on our role and where we're from. So my name's Jess and I'm a Health Promotion Officer at the Health Promotion Service at a South Eastern Sydney Local Health District. And I have a background in nutrition and public health. And with me is my colleague Tegan. So she is also a Health Promotion Officer and her background is in nutrition and dietetics. So you'll hear from Tegan a little bit later on this evening. So we're from the Health Promotion Service, and what the Health Promotion Service does is that we aim to improve the health and wellbeing of our community. And often we focus on healthy eating, physical activity, and creating healthy places and spaces to promote healthy lifestyles. So now that you know a little bit about us, Tegan and I would really love to hear a little bit more about you. So if you feel comfortable, in the chat box, I'll get you to quickly pop in perhaps your first name and maybe even something about you in regards to lunchbox packing. If you're maybe a new lunchbox packer or someone that's experienced with packing a lunchbox. So I'll just give you a couple of minutes now to pop that into the chat box. Just when you enter into the chat box there, just make sure that in the drop down option there, it's going to everyone, so everyone in the group can get to know you. So we've got a participant typing in there saying that they're new to lunchbox packing. Someone's been packing lunchboxes for 2 years. That's great. A participant that's been packing lunchboxes in childcare. Perfect. It's great to meet you all. Thanks for popping all those into the chat box. So we've got a very mixed group of experienced and new lunchbox packers. So that's great. Yes, that's what I was sort of imagining. So I imagine that some of you have had experience packing a lunchbox for your child, perhaps in an early childcare setting or preschool. And then some of you, like you've mentioned, are packing lunchboxes already for older children that are attending primary school already. So for those of you who are experienced in lunchbox packing, if there's anything you'd like to share with the group as we go through this presentation with your experiences with lunchbox packing, please feel free to pop them in the chat box as we go through tonight's session and just share them with all the parents in the group tonight. So during tonight's session, we'll be covering why healthy lunchboxes are important, what to pack in a lunchbox, providing practical tips on how we can ensure those lunchboxes will come home empty. We'll touch on label reading and how we can choose healthier packaged foods and snacks for the lunchbox. We'll look at some useful resources that will help make packing lunchboxes easy for when your children are starting school next year, or if they're already at school, like some of yours. And finally, we'll hopefully have around, as Stella mentioned, some time at the end to have some of your questions answered that you pop into the chat box as we go through. So hopefully around 15 minutes or so for that. So it is good to consider from the outset that eating times at school may look very different for you if your child's coming from childcare. And there's going to be less adults around to guide them on what to eat, to encourage them to be eating their fruits and vegetables, and even to be helping them open containers and packaging. They'll be very excited to play with their friends at break times, that at times they may even forget to eat. So it is worthwhile from the outset, if your child is new to starting school next year, that you start that discussion with your child to get them familiar about what they may be expecting at meal times at school. And throughout tonight's presentation, we'll also offer practical ideas with keeping this sort of context in mind. So before we get into the session, it's also important to note that all the information that we're providing you today is general health information. So if your child has an allergy or any specific dietary requirements, we do suggest that you speak to your doctor or other health professional to get tailored advice for your concerns. So to begin, let's explore why it is important to pack a healthy lunchbox for our children. So children are eating a third of their daily intake of food at school. So school is a great opportunity to pack nutritious foods to help children get through those long days. Healthy lunchboxes containing nutritious foods are important because they give children the energy to learn and focus while they're in the classroom. They provide nutrients for good health, growth, and development. They provide longer lasting energy for your child across the day to help maintain their play and their activity across the day. And most importantly, it helps children set up good eating habits for the rest of their life. Children's food preferences are established at an early age, and learning to like some kinds of foods can take time. So lunchboxes are a perfect opportunity for children to build confidence and get familiar with some new foods. So some of you may be familiar with this image from perhaps discussions with your child and family health nurse or your GP when you received your blue book for your younger children. For those who are not, this is the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, and it reflects the most up-to-date information and recommendations on what we should be eating each day, both for our children and ourselves as adults. So each section on this image, we call this the plate, and each section represents one of 5 food groups. So in tonight's session, I'll often refer to these foods as the everyday foods, or everyday 5 food groups. And each of these food groups provides us with the important nutrients each day for healthy growth and development, and for our bodies to work at its best. So the everyday food groups include fruits, vegetables, which includes legumes and beans. We've got breads and cereals, lean meats and alternatives, dairy and dairy alternatives. And for a drink, either water or reduced fat milk is recommended. So as children grow, their body's needs increases based on what energy they need. And basically, the more they grow, the more foods that they're going to be needing from these everyday food groups. There are different recommended servings of each of these foods based on age, and it varies between children and adults. So I won't go through a breakdown now of what each of the recommendations are for these ages, but we'll send you this breakdown in our follow-up email that will come from the Waverley Council to you, and it will show you the breakdown by age groups. So what you don't see in the last slide under the everyday food groups are these foods usually that are high in energy, salt, sugar, or fat, and they don't provide our bodies with essential nutrients. So think of things like cakes, ice cream, soft drinks, chips, and fast food. So we don't need to be cutting these out of our diet entirely, but it is important to know that these foods are our sometimes foods, and that they should be enjoyed occasionally, but shouldn't be making up the bulk of our child's diets. So as mentioned earlier, meal times at school may be different than what your children have previously been used to. Some schools, not all, have what is called a Crunch&Sip break. So this is a break in the classroom specifically for eating fruit and vegetables and drinking water, but I'll touch on this a bit more in the next slide. And then in addition to this, there are usually 2 meal breaks. So often one's called recess, which is usually the shorter break, and another break, it may be called lunch, usually the longer break. So recess and lunch may be switched around based on the school. So it's good to know what time each of your children's meal breaks are at the school that they're attending, and then try and understand what your child might prefer to eat at each of these breaks based on the time of day. How much food your child will eat across the day will depend on how much they're growing and how active they are. It's not necessary to overpack too much food in children's lunch boxes, as most students struggle to get through what they are given in the allocated time at school. If your child is a fussy or a picky eater, big portions can be overwhelming. So only look to pack the amount that they would typically be eating, and pack familiar healthy foods that you know that they enjoy. So we'll get into some tips and ideas of what to pack for the school day, and they'll be covered on the next few slides. So Crunch&Sip, as I mentioned, so Crunch&Sip is a scheduled opportunity for children to eat some fruit and vegetables and sip on water during class time. And often this is held around mid-morning in the classroom. So this break is important because we know that eating fruit and vegetables and drinking water is a great recipe for learning, because it improves energy levels, alertness, and concentration. And it's really useful to get through that long morning in the classroom. So if you do have a child who is a fussy or a picky eater, Crunch&Sip offers a great social opportunity to try new types of fruits and vegetables that promote children to eat these foods alongside friends. Feedback from this time in class indicates that even the most reluctant child could be tempted to have a go at trying new foods at this time when they see their classmates and teachers eating the same foods. And it's also a really great reminder for children to be drinking their water, particularly when they're seeing their peers and teachers doing so as well. So as parents, Crunch&Sip offers an opportunity to consider including a new piece of fruit or vegetable in your child's lunchbox. So when packing your child's lunchbox, we recommend including a variety of those everyday foods from each of those 5 food groups that we went through just earlier. Although we encourage you to include an item from each of the 5 food groups in the lunchbox, this doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be 5 individual items for the lunchbox. You might like to look to pair items together, such as, say, a dairy item like cheese with a whole grain and cereal item like whole grain crackers, for example, or adding vegetables such as lettuce or tomato to a whole grain sandwich. So in the next few slides, we'll go through some different examples of food you could look to include from each of those 5 food groups that will keep the lunchbox exciting. And in addition to the foods in the lunchbox, we also recommend packing a drink, either water or plain milk. And then finally, considering food safety in the lunchbox. So this is quite important at school, particularly if you're packing any leftovers. So again, this may differ to what you've experienced with your family at childcare or preschool, where often children are able to put their lunch into fridges. Whereas if you're new to school, depending on your school, school bags can often be kept outside for the day in direct sunlight. So it's important to keep hot foods hot and cold foods cold, so it's safe for our children to eat. So consider adding items to the lunchbox like an ice brick to keep the foods cold, or a small lunchbox thermos to keep foods warm. So let's get into how we can break down ideas to pack a healthy lunchbox, starting with fruit. So fruit is a great addition to the lunchbox for Crunch&Sip and for recess. For children, it's recommended to eat 2 serves of fruit per day, which looks something like what's on the screen there. So it could be a medium piece of fruit like an apple, 2 smaller pieces of fruit like 2 apricots, or 1 cup of chopped or canned fruit. So that represents what 1 serve is. So fresh fruit is a great option. You could look to cut up whole fruit like apples and oranges into quarters. This will help your child, this will help make it easier for your child to eat these sorts of foods on the go. And the smaller portions will make it less overwhelming and more inviting for them to eat a whole serve across the day. Preparing fruit in advance and cutting it up at the start of the week will help you save time during a busy week, which is often the case for many of us. And to save money, buying fresh fruits that are in season will make sure that you're getting the best quality produce at a really good price. You could also consider buying fruits in frozen or tin varieties rather than fresh. If you do buy tin fruit, make sure you're buying fruit in unsweetened juice, not in syrup. And providing dried fruit is okay, but it's important to have these in smaller amounts. Because they have been dehydrated, this makes them full of natural sugars. And because they are smaller, it's much easier for us to be eating more of these sorts of foods. And eating foods like this that are high in sugar, if eaten often, can also contribute to tooth decay. So this is another reason why it's important to have these foods in a smaller serving. So moving on to vegetables next. So while more than half of children in New South Wales are eating enough fruit, which is great, only 1 in 20 children are meeting the recommendations for vegetables. So the recommendations from the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating are that children should be consuming 5 serves of vegetables per day. So on this slide, we can see examples of what 1 serve of vegetables looks like. So that's half a cup of vegetables, whether that's fresh, frozen, or canned. 1 cup of salad leaves, so like green leafy vegetables. Half a cup of legumes or beans. 1 medium piece of vegetables, so something like a tomato, or around the equivalent of 8 vegetable sticks. This is another example of a serve. So 5 serves may seem like a lot of vegetables for a child to eat in 1 meal, but that's why it's really important to include vegetables spread throughout the day, and school lunchboxes are a perfect opportunity. So now I'm going to show you how this can be achieved. So on the screen here, we have some common examples of ways we can incorporate getting vegetables into the lunchbox. It's not always just about packing vegetable sticks, but also looking for other creative ways that we can include vegetables. So we've popped up on the screen there some ways that we can help children eat more vegetables. So firstly, including vegetables in the lunchbox every day and spreading vegetables across the day, even including them at breakfast, as an afternoon snack, and at dinner time. We want to encourage enjoyment with vegetables by playing around with different colors of texture or textures to make those vegetables look more appealing to children. We want to get creative by keeping it fun and interesting. You can make the lunchbox look appetizing and fun by cutting vegetable snacks in different ways. And also, this is a great opportunity to get your child involved in lunchbox preparation, which provides them with excitement knowing what is packed and encourages them to eat what is inside of the lunchbox. And finally, we also know it really helps when parents show their kids that they really like eating vegetables too. And our children are more likely to do so if they see you eating the foods as well. So keeping it positive and being patient with them, because your child is definitely on a journey of learning if they are fussy or picky eaters. And research suggests that it can take up to 10 to 15 times for a child to see or try a new food before they learn to really like it. So on to whole grains and cereals. So this is the third everyday food group. So these are often the foods that make up the main item for lunchtime, but they can also be included as a great snack. So including these foods in the lunchbox is important because they're often high in fiber, which is really important for digestion. And fiber also helps keep children feeling fuller for longer and helps them to concentrate longer while they're at school. So for recess snacks, we could look to include items like plain popcorn and whole grain crackers topped with cheese. There's an opportunity here to look to buy bigger packets of these sorts of items and use containers or bags to portion it out yourself in advance. This is a great way to save money as individual portion snacks for these types of foods are often much more expensive. So just keeping in mind here the context again. So if your children making sure your children are able to open the containers you're providing. And it's a really good idea before they start school to practice opening up the containers together, just so they can do so when they start school next year. For lunches, you could look to provide sandwiches, wraps or rolls with everyday fillings. You could look to offer fruit breads, sushi or leftover rice, pasta or noodle dishes from the night before that are easy options for the lunchbox. So when packing any leftovers, do ensure that you're considering food safety and storing these foods correctly and ensuring that they're heated up or kept to the required temperatures before eating them. A really good way to save time when we're preparing lunchbox sandwiches is to prepare in advance and freeze for the week ahead. So you could look to add items like cheese or lean meats to the sandwiches, which freeze really well. And then when you pull them out each day to add to the lunchbox, there's the opportunity to include vegetables like lettuce or tomato before they're packed in for the day. So moving on to dairy and dairy substitutes. So these foods contain calcium that's a very important nutrient for growing children to help them develop strong bones and teeth. It is recommended that reduced fat options of these foods are best for children aged over 2 years, as these types of foods are often high in fats. So dairy items and alternatives for the lunchbox could look like including cheeses. So these could be provided on their own as cubes or sticks for snacking on, or could be prepared as slices or cream cheese to pair with whole grain crackers or on a sandwich. Preparing your own cheese slices and crackers in advance for the week in a small container, again, is another really good way to both save money and time, and a great alternative to buying pre-packaged cheese and biscuit snacks. It's also a really good way to minimize waste that can come from food packaging as well. Another great option are yogurts and custards. So either plain or paired with fruit. So yogurts in tubs freeze really well and are a great addition to the lunchbox to act as an additional ice brick to help keep food safe across the school day, safe to eat across the school day. And likewise with freezing reduced fat milk poppers, these can also act as an additional ice brick in the lunchbox. And they're also great because they can be versatile and kept at room temperature if needed as well. Finally, looking at some dairy-based dips like tzatziki is also a great option. And these are good to pair with, say, vegetable sticks or, again, whole grain crackers. So it is important to ensure when choosing any dairy substitutes for any of these items that the item is calcium fortified, and this should be outlined on the product label for you. This will ensure your child is getting the same benefits from these foods for healthy growth and development of their bones and teeth. And then the final everyday food group is lean meats and alternatives, which are foods that are protein rich and essential for building, maintaining, and repairing the tissues in our bodies. So protein rich foods are also good at keeping children fuller for longer across a school day. And they are even great for after school snacks to help satisfy their hunger after a long day, and a great snack to offer before dinner time. Sorry. So protein-rich items that can be added in the lunchbox include hard-boiled eggs offered either as a snack or added to a sandwich, canned tuna or salmon, either as a snack or sandwich, baked beans, again, a snack or on a sandwich, and having a good stock of these sorts of canned goods as pantry essentials will help you fill up the lunchbox if you're, like, say, short on time to get to the shops. And buying these sorts of items will also help save money in the food budget as well. Excuse me, sorry again. Other lunchbox options include adding sliced cold lean meats to sandwiches, things like chicken, roast beef, or turkey. But we do want to be minimizing our intakes of any processed deli meats like ham, Devon, or salami, as these items often have added preservatives. Finally, offering protein-rich dishes from the night before, such as stir fries or spaghetti bolognese. For those who may prefer to eat a plant-based diet, you can look to incorporate legumes as a meat alternative in these sorts of dishes. So things like lentils into spaghetti bolognese dish. And using meat alternatives like lentils and beans, again, can also help save money on the food budget. And a good idea is mixing in a tin of lentils with the beef mince in dishes such as spaghetti bolognese, for example. So this will help make the meal go further so there can be leftovers the next day as well. And then the final piece of the lunchbox puzzle, which we've touched on, is all about drinks. So children need at least 5 cups of fluid per day, and research suggests that adequate hydration also may improve learning in the classroom. As we've mentioned, the preferred and recommended drinks to pack in a lunchbox is water and reduced fat plain milk. It's important to always send a water bottle to school each day and encourage your child to refill it throughout the day. A frozen water bottle is also a great way to keep the lunchbox chilled throughout the day. Avoid packing drinks such as fruit juice, sugar sweetened drinks like cordials or soft drinks, and artificially sweetened drinks. These should all be limited in both a children and an adult's diet. Although fruit juice, when made with 99% fruit juice, can offer some nutrients that other drinks don't, these drinks are still packed with sugar, and best to get these nutrients by eating a piece of fruit instead, where children can also get those additional benefits that fruit can offer. If your child isn't big on drinking water, there's also the opportunity to add slices of fruit or vegetables such as sliced cucumber or lemon, which can help make the taste of water more appealing. So I've definitely provided a lot of information about what we can include in a healthy lunchbox, but now I'm going to show you this short video of what this will really look like for you in action. Sorry. So you can see in this video that there are lots of varieties offered from the 5 everyday food groups across the school week, A water bottle is always packed every day, and an ice brick is added to keep the food safe to eat. So now I want to show you one of the many useful resources that will help making lunchboxes easier when your children start school next year. So this is the Healthy Lunchbox Builder, and it's developed by the Cancer Council, and it showcases how it can be easy to put together a healthy lunchbox and provides lots of great ideas. So we'll make sure we'll send you this link in the resources in the follow-up email. But if you simply also just search Healthy Lunchbox Builder in your search engine, you'll be able to find this one as well. So getting your child involved in choosing what to pack in a lunchbox often prompts children to want to eat what they have prepared. So this resource offers an interactive way to choose items from the 5 food groups, and it might be something that you and your children can do together to help keep lunchboxes interesting. The resource offers ideas for healthy recipes, such as sandwich alternatives and ideas for sandwich fillings. It offers some inspiration for healthy snack options as well. And once you select items for the lunchbox using the builder, the resource gives practical tips to save time and money and provides creative ways to keep the lunchboxes interesting and suggesting different ways to present foods to your children. So it's a very useful resource. So now that we've learned what to pack in a lunchbox, I would definitely like to acknowledge now that packaged food does play a huge role in society. And for busy families, packaged food can be affordable, saves time, and has a long shelf life. But I definitely understand it can be challenging to know which packaged foods are healthier, with definitely having so many options on offer when you go to the supermarket. So now I'm going to pass on to Tegan, who's going to talk you through how to look for the healthiest packaged items to pop into the lunchbox.
Thanks, Jess. So we'll now take a look at some of the key things to consider when you're choosing packaged foods or snacks for the lunchbox. We have a handy pocket guide, like you see on the right of your screen there, which will be sent to you as part of the resource pack following this webinar. But for now, if you have your phones handy, grab it out and just take a picture of the handy pocket guide on the screen there, so you can refer to it as we go through the next few slides. When we are looking at nutrition information of packaged foods, we can refer to the nutrition information panel. Now, this is the table usually on the side or back of the product, and it lists nutrients and their amounts, both in per serve and per 100 grams. Now, there's 4 key things to look at on the nutrition information panel, as our handy pocket guide there suggests. So first, we want to look at the total fat per 100 grams. Here, we want to aim for this to be less than 10 grams per 100 grams. Then we can look at sugar per 100 grams. And here we aim for less than 15 grams per 100 grams. Next, we want to look at fibre. Now, not all labels will include fibre, but for things like breads and cereals, it's always good to check. And now with fibre, it's just slightly different. Instead of looking at the per 100 gram column, we want to be looking at the per serve column for this one. And here we aim for 3 grams of fibre or more per serve. Now, lastly, we always want to check sodium as well. So sodium, it's more commonly known as salt. Here we want to choose foods with less than 400 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams. Now, when we're comparing products to determine what might be a healthier option for the lunchbox, we compare using the per 100 gram column on the nutrition information panel, because this allows us to get a true comparison. The per serve sizes can differ across products. Say, for example, one yogurt brand might suggest the serve size is 30 grams, while another might suggest a serve size of 80 grams. Right, next slide, thanks, Jess. Also, when we're looking at packaged foods, we also want to check the ingredients list. It's good to get into the habit of checking the ingredients lists for things like added sugars, fats, and salts. In the ingredients list, all ingredients must be listed in order from the highest to the lowest by weight. Usually, the percentage of the first ingredient is also listed. When we check the first 3 ingredients, if a fat a sugar or a salt is listed in those first 3 ingredients, this product is likely to be high in saturated fat, added sugar or salt. It's probably a product we could swap for something healthier for the lunchbox. Now, remember, food manufacturers can use a number of different names for fats, sugars, and salts. Some of these are listed there at the bottom of the slide. It's good to be familiar with a few of these. If there is an ingredients list, if there is an ingredient listed in those first 3 that you're not familiar with, go back to those key steps and read the nutrition information panel and check those amounts per 100 grams, because this might tell you that unknown ingredient is a fat, a sugar, or a salt. Next slide. Thanks, Jess. Now let's see how all this works in practice, and we'll do a bit of a comparison of these 2 crackers or crispbreads here on the screen. So without a doubt, we know there's no shortage of options when you walk down the cracker aisle at your supermarket. And choosing a healthier option is made that little bit easier if we can read the nutrition information panel and use those steps that we've just gone through. So let's compare these 2 crispbreads here. So here we have crispbread A. Now this one, it's marketed as having only 2 ingredients. Crispbread B is marketed as made in Australia, and both are marketed as a healthy snack option when used with dips or served with cheese and vegetables. Next slide. All right, so let's look at the nutrition information panel of both and see what's really going on. So in the per 100 column, we check the fat content. Now, total fat, we can see crispbread B, is higher in total fat. Next, we want to check the sugar, and we can see both these options are less than that 15 grams that we're aiming for. Now we want to look at fiber. Now remember, for fiber, we want to check the per serve column. And here we can see crispbread A meets that target for fiber of 3 grams or more per serve. Now we look for sodium. Now sodium, we go back to that 100 gram column, and we can see that we can see here, and here in the 100 gram column, we want to see less than 400 milligrams per 100 grams. If we can get less than 120 milligrams, even better. But in this example, we can see B is well over our 400 milligram limit. Lastly, let's just check the ingredients list. Option A has a whole grain rye flour and rye flour at 99% total in their ingredients, and then some salt added as well. Here, given that salt is about 1%, and we know that we've checked the per 100 gram, we don't need to be alarmed here that there's salt listed as an ingredient. Option B, it doesn't tell us a percent. It has fat, vegetable oil, and salt in the first 3 ingredients. And we can see the nutrition information panel, these exceed what we aim for in the per 100 gram column. So we can safely say crispbread A is the better choice here. Crispbread B is high in fat, low in fiber, and high in salt. Now, with so many products available in the supermarket, it can be confusing to know which is the healthiest option to pack in the lunchbox. By using these key label reading steps can be helpful. There's also a useful free app available called Food Switch. This app allows users to scan a barcode of a product or packaged foods, and it automatically displays healthier options of the same food category. In this case, it would be crispbreads or crackers. So we've got the link to the Food Switch app, which we'll send you following this webinar as part of that resource pack. But for now, I'll hand back to Jess. She's got a few last slides to go through before our Q&A session. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks, Tegan. That was very helpful. Thank you. So throughout tonight's session, we've definitely gone through a number of tips and strategies that we explored to help us pack healthy lunchboxes to support children's nutrition to get them through a long school day. So what I'll do now is definitely encourage everyone to have a quick think, take a minute or so, to have a think about one practical strategy that you are going to take home with you to try with your child after tonight's session. It may be something you do in the months leading up to school. And if you are willing, I'd really like to hear what tip or strategy has resonated with you from this session. So again, using that chat box function, please share this with the group and give a bit of inspiration to other parents. So I'll give you a little bit of time now, say a minute or so, to have a quick think, to pop your ideas in the chat box. So someone's already popped in there that they're going to be using the Food Switch app when they go shopping next. Another participant likes the idea of freezing yogurts. That's awesome. That's great. There's a few still coming through. It definitely can be tricky. So to keep your minds working, I've popped a few of my suggestions on the slide there. So this might help give you a bit of inspiration. So perhaps packing the first couple of lunches with your child during the first week of school might be a good idea. You could provide children with the opportunity to cut or peel up their veggies or fruit for crunch and sip break. Or you could even use the healthy lunchbox builder to involve your children in lunchbox packing. Another idea is buying lunchboxes, water bottles, or ice bricks as a Christmas gift before school starts, and practice using the containers at home. And then, like someone has mentioned in the chat box, when shopping, using either the label reading pocket guide or the Food Switch app to help you get those healthier options picked for the lunchbox. So I definitely see a few more coming through in the chat box, which is great. A couple of people echoing the healthy lunchbox builder. That's definitely a great resource. And a couple of you looking to prepare lunchboxes in advance to save time during a busy week. Yeah, that's a great one. Keep them coming. We'll keep moving through, but it's definitely great to share information between parents. It's definitely very useful. So just wanted to share this other resource with you. So to support parents and carers like yourselves, the Health Promotion Service has recently launched a new parents and carers platform on our website. And this provides resources for parents to help create healthy lunchboxes, some of the resources of which we've been through tonight, but it also offers resources for, say, fussy or picky eaters, getting active as a family and ways to do that, how to reduce screen time in your family, and also has many links to a number of healthy recipes that might be good ideas for you to include in the lunchbox next year. So again, like the other resources, we'll make sure we'll provide this link to you in the follow-up email with the list of resources, so you can get access to all these ones off the website. So before we start getting into question and answer time, I just wanted to leave you with a few final take-home messages to keep in mind when you're packing a healthy lunchbox. So packing a variety of foods and a balance from the 5 everyday food groups, and including water or reduced fat plain milk for a drink, is key. When choosing appropriate food items, consider to yourselves, can your child open those items by themselves? Would they normally eat this item cut into pieces when at home? Because remember, at school, children may be less inclined to ask a teacher, to ask help from a teacher or from an adult. And if they can't open or manage it at home by themselves, it might be best to leave it out of the lunchbox. We want to include vegetables and make vegetables a habit in the lunchbox in all meals and snacks across the day as well. So the more that children are exposed to vegetables, the more they'll learn to love them. As mentioned, as parents, there's the opportunity to show your children what healthy eating looks like and that you enjoy eating well as too. And finally, keeping healthy lunchboxes a positive experience for you and your child. Talking to them about why healthy eating is important, encouraging them to make choices for their lunchbox and letting them help you prepare it. Remember, if they get to contribute to making it, there is more of a chance that it's going to come home empty. So as Stella mentioned just before we get into the question and answer time, we have a little evaluation that we would like you to do via our polls. So hopefully Stella can pop that up on the screen now. There's just 5 quick questions that we're hoping you could take the time to answer, just about your experience with this session this evening. So I'll just give you a few minutes now, and maybe Stella, you can just let me know when everyone's done and we can move into question and answer time.
Hi, Jess, we'll just give it another minute.
Yeah, that's fine, Stella, no problem.